All right, you guys are looking to score in NHL 23. I can't think of a year where there has been more adjustments to goal scoring and how the game is really played than from 22 to 23. It has been quite a drastic adjustment, and after playing about 75 games, I've got all the info you need. So in this video, guys, we're going to go over the settings I'd recommend, the lineup adjustments I think you guys should make, including abilities, and then how to utilize all of the strategies and settings inside of NHL 23. I want to make this very clear. This is not how you should play the game. If you clicked on this video, you're more than likely struggling either on defense or offense. You're looking for some help in NHL 23, and this is merely meant to just help out the players that are struggling offensively and defensively. So let's not wait anymore. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so to begin, let's talk about settings, the things that I would recommend for you guys to run in terms of settings. So first, what we're going to do is go to controller settings, and here is the list of how I would recommend you use your controls. So skill stick, if you're running hybrid or NHL 94, unless you're really enjoying it, I would really recommend you get comfortable with the skill stick. That's immediately going to take you up a division or two once you figure out how to use the skill stick. It is by far the most strategic advantage among the other two options, so make sure you're going with skill stick. Auto backskate, this needs to be off, and I will explain why. Your CPU, while it means well, will turn around at almost always the most inopportune time. You're going to get guys that are beelining down the boards, and your defenseman will just decide, now is the right time to turn around, and more than likely, you're looking behind you as he streaks in on a breakaway. So make sure that this is off. I will show you guys how to control the back skate and use it to your advantage. Auto hustle, this was added into the game, I believe, last year. This is meant so that you don't have to click in on the left thumbstick to actually, move your ass. I haven't noticed anything, and this is all mental. I still click in the left thumbstick to try and go as fast as I possibly can, so I turn this off. When it comes to vibration, I don't know why you guys want to make things more difficult on yourself by having your controller rumble when you get hit or, get bumped off the puck. This is off for me, but again, this is all whatever you want. Online pass assist, always leave this at 100. Moving it anywhere else is just going to make it more difficult for you to line up those passes or receive the puck. All right, now let's talk about camera angle. This is probably one of the most important settings in the entire game, and there is really three options for you to focus on. My favorite is the zone camera angle, and the reason being is because at any point I can see all three zones. So if you are cycling in the offensive zone, and let's say your opponent has a line change or has someone behind your defense, if you are running classic or overhead, you really can't see behind your bench. With the zone camera angle, you're going to get that kind of further back view that will allow you to make sure that you don't have any of that, come into play. It also allows you to see a wider view of the actual surface, so when it comes to the breakout and all of the cuts and plays that you're going to set up in this video, zone allows you to just see kind of the best view and vantage point of all of that. If you really hate zone, that's fine. It's all personal preference. The other two options would be overhead, which is really the only other option I would choose. If you're not going to use zone, use overhead, which kind of gives you a straight down view. And the other one is classic. Now, classic is a little too zoomed in for me. I feel like if you are in a lower division or if you struggle breaking the puck out or you give up a lot of breakaways, it could just be that you're too zoomed in, and classic is very zoomed in. So make sure that you have one of the higher ones so that you can actually see all the plays being developed. That would be overhead or zone. The other thing, turn auto zoom off. That can kind of mess with the vantage point there. So that is what I would do in terms of camera. All right, now when it comes to your lineup, even though one-timers are now no longer an automatic goal, they have been nerfed into oblivion, which I actually kind of think is refreshing because the game is much different. The way that you score and have to set up plays, you really have to work for it this year. It isn't just the auto wait for someone to open up on the back door, sit there on the goal line. You've really got to put some effort into it. So nonetheless, I still believe having right-handed players on the left side and left-handed players on the right side is still a big advantage, and I'm going to show you why in a few examples. But the ability to cut into the middle is still extremely important, and at the point, even though one-timers aren't an automatic goal from the point, honestly, I think this might be the least I've ever seen D-to-D one-timers go in. You can cause a lot of havoc and set up a lot of goals from point shots, and that is why I still have my defenseman switch. Now, again, this is all personal preference, but again, if you're going to run this system, what I'm going to show you in terms of offense, this is how you're going to want to run it. All right, next, let's talk about ability points. Now, I'll have a video that will go over my tier tier list of all of the abilities in NHL 23. Again, if you find ones that are successful to your playstyle, please use them. Again, just use this as a guide. So I want to talk about the abilities that I'm looking for in NHL 23 and how I've used my team. Now, obviously, not everyone is going to have a God Squad like this, but there are a lot of cards that aren't nearly as expensive that do have the abilities that if you are curious to try out, there's definitely some available. So first, let's talk about centerman. I have Olli Jokinen, the team builder card. The passing abilities I just have not found useful at all because the pass assist model has been turned back on in NHL 23. You are able to snap the puck around and you don't really have to nail it in terms of accuracy. It's really lessened the value in passing X factors, and I haven't really noticed them at all even when I had them on for Jokinen. Quick Draw is one of the most important abilities that you can have because it is able to be seen. It is a clear advantage. If you tie up or, win the draw, or if there's anyone that's close to you in terms of face-off rating, you will almost always win it, and that's a huge advantage when you're just starting a play. Another one I do like, especially for defensemen, is Gold 1T. Again, D-to-D one-timers are not going in very often, and that might change as the game goes along because accuracy rating for a lot of these defensemen is quite lower than what we're used to. However, Gold 1T on defensemen, they have a lot more opportunity because they're on the ice more than forwards, and a D-to-D one-timer is very, very easy to set up because everyone usually uses collapsing protect net, so the points are open. You can cause a lot of havoc by having Gold 1T on. Allows you to get a lot of shots on goal, rebounds, and again, that's going to be a lot of what we talk about coming up. Next is Born Leader on Keith Tkachuk. I like Born Leader just because if you score with someone in the first, few months of the game that has Born Leader and they're on your first line, you're going to be able to put that first line right back out there. But more importantly, Close Quarters is, in my opinion, still a god tier ability, especially this year because of how effective rebound shots are. So Close Quarters is one that I look for in almost every player. Owen Nolan's Team Builder has the gold Close Quarters, and it has been great. The other one I want to talk about on my team is Stick 'em Up. Stick 'em Up is the best defensive ability currently because of the nerf to Pochex. If you hit R1 and you time it correctly, or even if you don't, with Stick 'em Up on, it is almost an auto knock off their stick. So definitely one that I would look out for. Stick 'em Up is still one of the best abilities in the game. All right, now let's get to the strategies and how I like to run my offense and defense in NHL 23. All right, so in NHL 23, we have a new interface in terms of settings. It looks a lot like franchise mode. I need to preface this by saying there is a ton of issues currently with strategies, and it is brutal. If you're watching this later on, hopefully it gets fixed, but I just want to point some out quickly. Don't worry, I'm going to walk you through all of my strategies and how to use them. But the one specifically is defensive strategy. If you have collapsing on, it actually says collapsing in game, but it's running tight point. If you want to run collapsing, which is what I would recommend, you got to choose staggered, okay? If you choose staggered in game, you will see when you edit your lines, or if you click on your lines in game, you will see it left on the leftmost option for defensive strategy. That is collapsing. So it's absolutely broken. It's a mess. I hope it gets fixed, but I just wanted to bring that up. All right, now let's talk about offense. I am running the Overload this year. I'm having a ton of success with it and a ton of fun. Again, like I said, NHL 23 and the way that you score and create offense is a lot different than 22. And in 22, it was pretty much all behind the net. But since cross-ice one-timers have been, like I said, nerfed into oblivion, it's not as important to have that far side guy wide open for the one-timer. So here is what I'm doing so far with Overload. Let's walk through some of the plays. All right, now you gotta walk before you run. So I wanna show you everything about the setup for the Overload. And we're gonna go into practice mode. And what's hilarious is that it is still the only method that you can practice. You can't practice behind the net or crash the net. For whatever reason, practice mode is legitimately just Overload, and this is why I started practicing it in the summertime, but it allowed me to find a lot of fun plays that are really effective in-game. So the Overload looks like this. It is 3 players on the right side, 2 players on the left, again, the far side defenseman, and then that player in the slot. Why I am really enjoying the Overload is because there is a lot of cut plays that you can open up by getting in this setup that are effective in NHL 23 that weren't in NHL 22. On top of that, if you run behind the net, there is no one that will sit parked in front. Tip shots are extremely effective in NHL 23, and with the Overload, you can actually get your players to sit there. All right, so let's take a look first at one of the plays that you can run while using the Overload. So once you've actually set up the cycle and you have this situation, 3 players on the left or right side of the boards, and then you've got the far side defenseman and the player in the middle of the ice in the slot. Here is the one play that I start with usually and wait to see how he actually plays defense. So when you have the player at the top right, so that'd be Goudreau in this situation, what I'll wait for is to see if he pressures Goudreau specifically with his player. In this situation, he does. When that happens, I wait. The middle board player will make a cut into towards the center of the ice. Now, once he has put pressure on Goudreau here in this situation, I know that Larkin is going to be wide open. So I wait for no pressure on, send it over, and now I have it with Larkin. Now, once someone pressures that Goudreau player in this sequence, he is basically left wide open. So now what your player will do running the overload is that player will make a beeline to the net. So if you just wait with Larkin or that middle board player, you can get a free pass to the net. So that's exactly what happens here. I have it with Larkin. I wait for Goudreau to get a little more open. Now I've got it to Goudreau, and that far side shot is the go-to so far in NHL 23. I've had a ton of success with it, and Goudreau makes no mistake. All right, here's the next play when you are in motion cycling the puck along the boards, and this is when you get it back to your defenseman. Now, for this to work, you're going to need your far side defenseman to be open, which he usually is. Again, most people are running collapsing as their strategy. You want to hit that middle player on the cut-in again. Now, in this sequence here, I'm not able to score off that cut, but it creates the goal. Because that player cuts into the middle, it's very hard for your opponent, if they're not watching out for that play specifically, to actually get over there and cover it. Here's a cleaner look of running this play. Again, as you can see, it's very quick passes, and if you now notice that this play is in the game, you're going to be able to pay attention for it. And again, unless your opponent is savvy enough to realize that's what you're trying to do, you're always going to get this guy open once he starts to cut to the middle. And then here, again, aim low far side. That seems to be the weakness for most goaltenders. Now, I'll have a video that goes over all of like the best and most effective ways to score. This video, I want to talk specifically about strategies, but the other big advantage of the overload is that middle player that sits in front of the net. And as you can see, the tip shots, if you can aim actually at that player for the tip, very effective in NHL 23. Tip that. Yep, let's go! Yes, sir! Alright, now let's talk about the sliders. When it comes to the offensive ones, what I like to do is for carry and dump, I have it all the way to the right for the dump slider, and the reason for that is because it allows the far side winger, if you're going too wide, essentially, to just go right towards the net. This will allow you, at the last second, if the backdoor play is open, you can send it over. That way, I like it a little bit more because they just keep going. When it comes to cycle and shoot, we are cycling the puck a ton with the overload strategy, so we're going to leave this with cycle. If you put it on shoot, you'll get these weird animations where the player won't cycle at all. He'll just stop in place waiting for a one-timer, and it just isn't as effective. When it comes to efficiency and energy, I always just put it at full energy, especially if you're playing something like Rivals Burst, where there's so little period length that, again, you're not even going to use your fourth line at all. And then don't block right in the middle. It's really not impactful at all. Usually, you're the one controlling the player closest to it, so you determine if you're going to go down in a block or not, so that doesn't matter. I like to do this for all four lines, so that remains the same. When I go and talking about it in a future video, show you guys behind the net and crash the net, I'll start usually implementing one of them in one of my lines, but for simplicity's sake, until you really get the hang of it, I just use the overload on all four. When it comes to defense, you really don't want to give up an odd man rush in NHL 23, so I like to have hold the line. That way, I make sure that I've got enough guys back, they don't get caught pinching. And then when it comes to cycle and shoot, I have it all the way to shoot, because at the point, if you have it on cycle, there's times where your far side defenseman will skate into the middle, and it can kind of mess all of the overload plays up, so I have it on all the way to shoot. And again, this is for all three defensive pairing. All right, now let's talk about team strategies. First, with the forecheck. I am super big this year after playing, like I said, about 75 Rivals games. I really don't want to give up odd man rushes, and especially with how the pocheck is, you only really get one shot at delivering a pocheck while defending the rush before it ends up being either a breakaway or an odd man rush, because it absolutely kills their speed. So I like to make sure that I'm playing it very careful when I lose the puck in the offensive zone, and this is going to depend again on the kind of player you're playing, and I'll talk about that as well in a future video, my how to score and how to defend video specifically. But for the defensive strategies, I want to actually explain what they do. The 1-2-2 passive, it's going to have one forechecker in attacking the puck carrier, and 1-2-2 passive means that he's not going to be super hard after the puck. The 1-2-2 red or the 1-2-2 aggressive, it will be that the one immediate forechecker will run right at the puck carrier, because the deking system is a little more elusive now, you can actually make dekes and get away and create time and space. I like being the 1-2-2 passive to kind of be a little bit safer. It has the wingers will sit back a little bit in the intermediate range, and then the defenders will be at the far back end, the neutral zone almost, to make sure that they don't get beat. The 1-2-2 red, this is going to change depending on the type of opponent you are playing. The 1-2-2 red really helps when you are playing someone that passes the puck a ton. What it will allow you to do is switch very quickly so that you can attack the puck carrier as they are passing the puck. Now, if they don't pass the puck at all, if you notice they'll sit back in their own zone and then beeline down the boards or through the neutral zone with one player without passing it, you want to go to the 1-4 because that is a lot more difficult when you have to run into 3 or 4 defensemen. So this is all going to depend upon which play style you are playing. I'll always start the game with 1-2-2 red. And again, I like to play it safe early on with a full trap. If you are getting down in the game and you really need to get the puck back, what I recommend is you change the forecheck all the way to the forecheck side on the slider and then switch to the 1-2-2 aggressive. Lastly, defensive pressure and strategy. So again, like I said, these are kind of messed up as of the date I'm making this video, so hopefully they get fixed. I still like collapsing and protect net. And the reason for that is that D-to-D one-timers don't seem to be going in, and because a lot of people are still using behind the net, there really isn't a lot of players in the setup for point shots or tip shots. So you can kind of let the defensemen have their time in space and then defend against that far side shot by having your control player be the one that is attacking the puck carrier but forcing them to the outside. It is imperative in this game that you don't overcommit in the corners because the backhand or forehand wrap when you walk out in front is still a basically automatic goal. So you have to be very passive, in my opinion, in certain situations. Now, the offensive strategy, this is going to determine how much your defensemen and wingers will push up when you're in the neutral zone. I have this set to standard. If you go to full-out attack, your defensemen, regardless if they get knocked off the puck, will kind of all be pushed up in the play, and that if you turn the puck over, that can lead to an odd man rush or a breakaway again, so I have it set to standard. The control breakout, I have the strong side slant, and then the quick breakout, this again is going to change based on my opponent. I have it set to close support so that you can make immediate quick passes when breaking the puck out, but if you notice your opponent is using like the 2-3 or is very aggressive, I switch to stay wide or leave zone early because those immediate passes are usually going to result in turnovers because they're playing so aggressive. So this, again, is going to change based on your opponent. When it comes to power play, I haven't found something that I really enjoy, but the 1-3-1 is sort of fun because what it'll allow you to do, if you have a player that has gold 1T, you can set them up as the finisher, and that way he stays open for that one-timer and mechanic because he has that insane slap shot. It's really fun to pull off, so that's what I would recommend for that. So guys, I hope these strategies and settings help you with your gameplay. Let me know in the comments section down below. I will have a video that will also go over the best ways to score on top of the overload setup, but now you actually have some plays in your arsenal that you can start pulling off. This alone, if you are in Division 6 or 5 or 4, this alone will immediately increase your skill level because now instead of just reacting to whatever is going on in game, you're going to start dictating the play and setups a lot more. Again, guys, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.